Have you ever had that nagging feeling that something just isn't right in your relationship? You feel drained, you're constantly second-guessing yourself, but you can't quite put your finger on why. After all, your partner seems so sweet, so caring. Everyone loves them. Today we're talking about a silent, invisible destroyer, the covert narcissist. We're going to break down 7 key red flags that you've probably been mistaking for love or just personality quirks. I promise you, by the end of this video, you'll know exactly how to see past that mask of charm. Have you ever caught yourself apologizing without even knowing what you did wrong? If that sounds familiar, pay close attention. This video might completely change how you see your relationship. Now, before we dive in, let's clear something up. When most people hear the word narcissist, they picture someone loud, boastful, and constantly craving the spotlight. That's your classic or grandiose narcissist. But there's another type that's far more dangerous, the covert or vulnerable narcissist. On the surface, they can seem humble, sensitive, or even shy. They don't shout about their superiority. Instead, they manipulate you so subtly that you could spend years trapped in an emotionally abusive cycle without even realizing it. Their weapon of choice isn't outward aggression, it's the art of making you feel guilty, obligated, and doubtful of your own sanity. And that's exactly what makes them so dangerous. You're fighting an invisible enemy who has convinced you that they're your best friend. Let's start with the first, and perhaps most confusing, sign. It's that subtle, almost invisible criticism that wears the mask of concern. You'll hear things like, "I'm only saying this because I love you, but that dress isn't exactly flattering," or "It's great that you're taking this on, but are you sure you're up for it? I'm just worried about you." At first glance, it sounds like genuine support. It feels like they're looking out for your image or your peace of mind. They only want what's best for you, right? This disguise is a brilliant move by a covert narcissist. Instead of attacking you directly, they plant tiny seeds of doubt in your mind. Every one of these caring comments is a small jab that slowly but surely erodes your self-confidence. And the worst part, you can't even justify getting angry because after all, they were only trying to help. Let's dig a little deeper. The goal of this so-called care isn't to help you grow, it's to gain control. By keeping you in a constant state of self-doubt, the covert narcissist makes you dependent on their validation. You start telling yourself, "They see me more clearly than I see myself. They're only pointing out my flaws so I can become a better person." Soon, you find yourself asking for their input on everything: what to wear, what to say, even where to work. Slowly, your internal compass begins to fade, replaced entirely by theirs. You lose touch with your own desires and your own intuition. Think of it this way: imagine you're a beautiful flower and they're the gardener. Every day they tell you, "Your petals aren't bright enough, let me trim them. Your stem is a bit crooked, let me straighten it." In the end, nothing remains of the original flower, only a version that is convenient for the gardener. How do you tell the difference between genuine care and this kind of manipulation? The key lies in how you feel once the conversation is over. Real care leaves you feeling warm, supported, and confident. Even if someone points out a mistake, you still feel accepted and valued. But after talking to a covert narcissist, you always walk away feeling a little worse than before. You're left with a lingering sense of anxiety, self-doubt, or a nagging feeling that you're somehow falling short. Your energy just drains away. Your excitement about a big achievement or a new purchase begins to fade under the weight of their wise commentary. Trust that feeling. Your body and your intuition are the ultimate lie detectors. If a supposedly caring talk makes you want to hide or leaves you feeling small, that isn't care. It's a major red flag. Moving on to the second trait, a mastery of passive aggression. A covert narcissist rarely engages in open confrontation. Loud arguments and shouting aren't their style. They need to maintain a facade of being calm and rational. Instead, their method is to wear you down through silence, subtle hints, and sabotage. For example, you might agree on something only for them to conveniently forget, or you ask a direct question and they respond with total silence, leaving you feeling guilty and wondering what you did wrong. And this is the infamous silent treatment. They can freeze you out for hours or even days, and when you try to find out what's wrong, they'll give you a dismissive, "I'm fine," but their entire demeanor tells you that things are definitely not fine. The goal of this behavior is to punish you without taking any responsibility for the hostility. He makes you suffer while maintaining a convenient mask of innocence. Your mind starts racing, replaying every word and action as you desperately search for where you went wrong. You find yourself apologizing, offering solutions, and begging him to just talk to you. In that moment, he has total power over you, controlling your entire emotional state without lifting a finger. Another classic example of passive aggression is the backhanded compliment. Something like, "You look so good today, I can barely tell you're tired." Or, "For someone at your level, you did a great job." On the surface, it sounds like praise, but it leaves a bitter aftertaste. It's just another way to take a jab at you without ever risking an open confrontation. Living with constant passive aggression is like walking through a minefield. You never know which step will trigger a wall of silence or a sudden cold shoulder. You're always on edge, constantly trying to predict their reaction, terrified of saying the wrong thing. It's incredibly draining. Your nervous system is in a state of permanent stress. You lose your spontaneity, that sense of lightness, because every single thing you do is filtered through a lens of, how will they react to this? If you've realized that you can no longer relax or just be yourself, if you're constantly decoding every tiny shift in their mood, it's a major red flag. Healthy relationships are built on open communication, not on solving riddles or trying to read someone's mind. The third sign is where we bring out the big guns, sophisticated gaslighting. Gaslighting is a form of psychological abuse designed to make you question your own reality, your memory, and your sanity. A covert narcissist is a master of this technique. They will deny obvious facts with such calm confidence that you'll actually start to doubt yourself. You'll hear classic lines like, "I never said that," or "You're just imagining things," or "You're overreacting, you're just too sensitive." They flip the script so effectively that by the end, you, the victim, find yourself apologizing to the person who mistreated you. Let's look at a specific example. You clearly remember him promising to help you move this Saturday, but when Saturday arrives, he's nowhere to be found. When you confront him about it, he looks at you with genuine surprise and says, "We never agreed to that. You must have mixed things up. I told you I'd be busy." He says it so convincingly that a thought flashes through your mind. Wait, did I get it wrong? Did I just imagine the whole thing? After a few incidents like this, you stop trusting your own memory. You start believing that something is wrong with you, that you're careless, forgetful, or overreacting. And that is the ultimate goal of gaslighting, to shatter your confidence and your sense of reality, making you much easier to control. The long-term effects of gaslighting are devastating. You lose your grip on reality until you no longer trust your own feelings, your thoughts, or even your own memories. You become completely dependent on a reality manufactured by your manipulator. This leads to chronic anxiety, depression, and the total erosion of your self-worth. If you constantly find yourself wondering, "Am I losing my mind?" If you've stopped trusting your own eyes and ears, if in every argument you're told you're imagining things or overreacting, stop. You aren't losing your mind. You are being systematically and cold-bloodedly driven out of it. This is one of the clearest and most dangerous signs of emotional abuse. The fourth sign is the role of the perpetual victim. It sounds like a paradox, doesn't it? You'd think someone who sees themselves as the center of the universe wouldn't want to seem weak, but for a covert narcissist, playing the victim is a masterstroke of manipulation. In any difficult situation, they are never to blame. It's always someone else's fault. A mean boss, jealous colleagues, unsupportive parents, the weather, and, more often than not, you. They weren't late because they left the house behind schedule. It was because the traffic was a nightmare. It's like the whole city was conspiring against me. They didn't break a promise because they forgot. It was because, I've had such an exhausting day, the least you could do is be more understanding. Playing the victim serves several purposes for him. First, it lets him dodge any responsibility for his actions. Since he's the victim, he gets a free pass. After all, how can you criticize someone who's already suffering? Second, it triggers your sympathy and pity. Instead of holding him accountable, you find yourself comforting him and making excuses for his behavior. He's the one who hurt you, yet 5 minutes later, you're the one patting his head and saying, "Poor thing, you've had it so rough." It's a brilliant role reversal. The aggressor becomes the victim, and the actual victim becomes the caretaker. Finally, it gives him a permanent license to demand special treatment, constant care, and undivided attention. Think about how often your partner complains about their life. How often do they tell stories where they're the one who was wronged, undervalued, or betrayed? Of course, everyone goes through hard times, but for a covert narcissist, this isn't just a phase, it's their entire identity. To them, the world is fundamentally unfair to someone as sensitive and misunderstood as they are. If you notice this pattern, take it as a serious red flag. A relationship where one person is always the victim and the other is always the rescuer is the definition of a toxic, codependent dynamic. You are becoming an emotional donor for someone who will never take accountability for their own life. You'll end up pouring all your energy into them only to get more complaints and stories about how the world is out to get them in return. Sign number 5 is a complete lack of empathy, cleverly masked as hypersensitivity. It's a subtle trick. A covert narcissist often comes across as a deeply sensitive and vulnerable person. They might cry over a movie, talk poignantly about the suffering of animals, or rail against the world's injustices. They seem profound and empathetic. But there's a catch. All that sensitivity is directed either at abstract ideas or purely at themselves. They are incredibly thin-skinned regarding any criticism or even the slightest lack of attention. Yet the moment it comes to your actual feelings and struggles, all that sensitivity suddenly vanishes into thin air. Here's how this looks in real life. Imagine you've had a brutal day at work. Your boss unfairly snapped at you, and you come home in tears, just needing to be heard. What does a covert narcissist do? Instead of offering a hug or a sympathetic ear, they'll likely hijack the conversation. "You think that's bad? You should hear about my day." Or they might dismiss your feelings entirely. "Why are you making such a big deal out of nothing?" They might even flip the script and blame you, saying, "Well, it's your own fault for acting that way." They are simply incapable of connecting with your emotions because, in their world, only their own feelings matter. To them, your pain is just background noise, or worse, an annoyance that takes the spotlight away from where they think it belongs, on them. How can you spot this fake sensitivity? Try a simple test. The next time you need genuine emotional support, pay close attention to how your partner reacts. Are they truly trying to understand and comfort you? Or do they lose interest immediately, yawning, checking their phone, or worse, turning the conversation back to themselves? Do they start explaining how their problems are so much more serious than yours? True empathy is the ability to set aside your own ego and focus entirely on someone else. A narcissist simply can't do that. Their supposed vulnerability is nothing more than a tool used to bait you for attention and pity. Don't let the act fool you. A total lack of empathy for what you're going through is a massive red flag. The sixth sign is the subtle, calculated way they downplay your achievements. A covert narcissist can't stand it when the spotlight is on you. Your success, your joy, even your talents, they are all seen as a threat to their fragile ego, so they'll do whatever they can to diminish your wins, but they won't be direct about it. They won't just say, "That's no big deal." Instead, they use much more passive-aggressive tactics. For instance, imagine you're excited to share that you finally got a promotion at work. Instead of celebrating with you, they might respond with a sigh and say, "Well, congratulations. I guess that just means you'll be coming home even later now." Or they might ask, "Did they actually give you a real raise, though?" They have a knack for finding that one dark cloud just to rain on your parade. The goal of devaluation is to steal your joy and make your achievements feel insignificant. It's a tactic to maintain power and dominance in a relationship. When you are successful and confident, you become less dependent on them, and for a narcissist, that is unacceptable. They might forget to congratulate you on a major milestone, or immediately dismiss your success by comparing it to someone else's. You'll hear things like, "That's great, but did you hear? My friend's son is already a director and he's only 25. They will do whatever it takes to dampen your spirits and pull you back into their shadow, right where they want you. After a congratulation like that, you don't feel celebrated. You just feel empty. This devaluation isn't just about the big milestones. It's about the little things too. Your new hobby, your sense of humor, your friends, even your taste in music. He'll constantly drop these subtle, sarcastic remarks that slowly eat away at your self-confidence and the value you find in what you love. If you've stopped sharing your joys because you already know he's going to pop your bubble, that is a major red flag. In a healthy relationship, partners genuinely celebrate each other's success. They are a support system, but with a covert narcissist, you are always playing against an invisible rival, one who will never, ever let you win. And finally, the seventh and last sign, the constant engineering of debt and guilt. A covert narcissist loves doing favors you never even asked for. They might give you an expensive gift only to hold it over your head indefinitely. They'll help you out, but that help is really just leverage for the next time you disagree. Their favorite weapon is the phrase, "After everything I've done for you." This line is the key to the cage they are locking you in. It's designed to disarm you instantly and make you feel ungrateful. Because how could you possibly be angry with someone who does so much for you? How could you ever say no to them? These acts of generosity are nothing more than investments in future control. He is essentially buying your loyalty and your silence. You find yourself caught in a trap. On one hand, you feel that something is deeply wrong, but on the other, you're consumed by guilt and a sense of obligation. You think to yourself, "How could I ever leave? He loves me so much. Look at everything he's done for me." This manipulation is incredibly effective because it targets core human values, gratitude, and fairness. But you have to understand that genuine kindness is selfless. It doesn't come with an invoice. If every good deed is eventually weaponized against you, it isn't kindness. It's emotional blackmail, and it's just another way to keep you on a short leash. So we've covered the 7 signs of a covert narcissist: subtle criticism disguised as concern, passive aggression, gaslighting, playing the perpetual victim, a lack of empathy, devaluation, and the constant manufacturing of guilt. It's important to remember that we aren't talking about 1 or 2 isolated incidents. We're talking about a system, a recurring pattern of behavior that slowly erodes your sense of self. The most important takeaway from this video is this: trust your feelings. If you constantly feel drained, guilty, or insecure around someone, even if you can't logically explain why, listen to your intuition. It isn't lying to you. Recognizing these patterns is the first and most crucial step toward healing and finding your way back to yourself. Thank you for watching until the end. If you found this helpful, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss our future content. Now I'd like to hear from you. Have you ever encountered this kind of behavior? Which of these 7 signs felt the most familiar? Share your story in the comments below. Your experience might be exactly what someone else needs to hear to stop doubting themselves